First up, we're looking for approval of the agenda. Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Public comments. Public, you have 3 minutes to address the board. Step up and give us your name, please. Any public? No takers, okay. Moving down to committee items, the minutes from the July 17th meeting.
Move to approve the minutes of July 17th.
Motion and support. Changes or corrections? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Takes us to appointments. And we've got 3 committees or boards. Only one has applicants, which is the Department on Aging Advisory Council. It's a vacant seat through December of this year, looks like. The applicants are Keith Blair and Rick Seegers. Looking for a nomination.
I would nominate Rick Seegers.
Okay, nomination of Rick Seegers. Any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Rick's name will be forwarded on. We still have the Sanitary Code Board of Appeals public seats open, which I think are both alternate, and John's former seat on the Emergency Management Council for a commissioner appointment. And we'll continue to look for applicants for that. Next up, we have the Enterprise Group semi-annual report. Tim Rogers and Debbie Kelly are here. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. I think you can just click through.
Yep. Morning. Thank you for having us this morning. I wanted to give you a quick update on a number of things. First of all, and I'll kind of run them through the PowerPoint. I'm not going to go through all the details in every slide, but wanted to talk a little bit about the site development issues that we've talked about kind of endlessly. We've had a lot of progress on this subject in the last 6 months, I think, with a lot of help from Commissioner Elwell and Mr. Shotwell, and even Mike's been involved in those conversations. While we don't have a purchase agreement yet, we do have some serious conversations going on for the acquisition of additional property for that technology park out in Blackman Township. What we have done is formed a work group with the Blackman LDFA. That group's going to be meeting later this month to actually work through the details of some what that purchase agreement might look like, how we're going to fund it, what the long-term ramifications are. Out there right now, the LDFA has a process where they write down the price of the property based on the investment and the type of jobs. So the price of property is actually written down for more investment and better paying jobs. We're going to have to kind of look at that a little bit, I think, and tweak that. There's a number of issues on that matrix we're going to have to work with. But a lot of progress being made there, and hopefully before the end of the year, we'll have to adjust their TIF and development plan, and that can all get done before the end of the year, and we can finalize some negotiations. That's 188 acres, of which about right around 110 is developable. There's quite a bit of wetlands out there. So some good progress being made there, and appreciate all of you that participated in the site tour earlier this spring. I think that helped a lot, and so I'm really excited about that. We've also done some work on US 127 with some people that have a local interest in perhaps buying that property. So we've done a lot of background work on the actual layout, legal descriptions, and some other things for that local group to look at whether they are willing to pursue that as from a long-term development perspective. Obviously, that's going to take a lot longer to develop with some of the challenges there. Just wanted to let you know we do continue to respond to MEDC projects. The recent one we did 2 weeks ago was for an automotive-related client looking for sites for a automotive plant, 50,000 square feet. It'll probably be months before we hear back on that. Hopefully we'll have some land under our control once we can get to that point. Also wanted to give you a kind of a heads up to be watching your email. We expect that we'll be making an announcement with MEDC and a local manufacturer, hopefully within the next week to 10 days, about a major expansion. There'll probably be around 150 to 200 jobs. We were in competition with Ohio and Indiana for this project. This will be the first project since I've been here that MEDC will have been involved in helping incent the project expand in Michigan. So We're just about there. I think you'll hear more in the next days ahead. So, workforce and development skills training. This continues to be the #1 issue across the United States. We have a lot of partners in this community that are working hard on this. We at the EG got a grant from the state through our regional partnership for about $8,000 to focus on Manufacturers Week, which is the week of October 6th. We pulled together many of the local players, JAMA, Shop Rats, the colleges, school districts, ISD, to figure out how we can kind of meld manufacturers with school-aged youth to get them to be more aware of the job opportunities that there are in manufacturing. Last year, Lomar did a really good job with some 7th grade classes from that kind of southern, southeastern part of the county, actually down into Hillsdale as well. We use that as a model when we pull these people together to say, what group of people do we need to have better exposure to? So this year we're going to continue with that. We're going to help fund transportation, probably some of the meals for students. We're going to focus on some 7th grade, about 200 7th grade students, and another 300 9th grade students. We're going to try to get every 9th grader in JPS inside a manufacturing facility on October 6th to get them more aware. Yeah, Phil.
Thank you, Tim. You keep talking manufacturing, but we have a job of overabundance everywhere.
Right.
I brought in 4 guys Monday. By Wednesday, I had 1 left. And these are $30,000 to $50,000 jobs with never layoffs.
We're totally on board with you. I
Too
get
good a
that.
job, maybe.
The reason we're doing this Manufacturers Week, one is because that money was focused when we got it from the state for that. But I want to mention something that we've got kind of moving down the list here when I get over this Manufacturing Week. Anyway, having 500 students inside of our facilities locally, we're going to try to do 7 different facilities in Jackson County to get these young people in. The Career Portal, which is the next thing on the list, Phil, one of the challenges we have is we've got all these good programs going on, but we don't really have a place for business people to go and say, how do we get plugged in to get people to understand some of these other jobs that are out there? You're absolutely right. We have about 3,000 on average open jobs in Jackson County at any one time. Our unemployment rate's a little under 4%, so the number of people that we have out there is kind of a challenge. That portal, really, what we want to do is have an online place for business people to go and say, where do I plug into all these different areas? How can they help me recruit people? How can we help get my current employees educated? Right now, it's all paper. When we do our retention calls, Amy does about 100 of them a year. We flip a folder out in front of them with 20, 30 brochures, and business people are expected to look through them and try to figure out how can they help me versus the other way around. So we've actually talked with our executive committee about how we could put some money into this and build this so that business people have a place to go to. The issue of business awareness and getting more business people inside of schools so young people understand that you don't have to have a college degree to get a $30,000 to $50,000 a year job is kind of the key. The other issue that we face, and this is further back in the slide deck, and I'm just reference it now, is the workforce participation rate is huge. I did a interview with Brad Flory at the Brooklyn Exponent, and he said, well, if we only have 2,500 or 2,800 people unemployed and we have 3,000 openings, we're never going to have enough people to fill the jobs. And the way the numbers work, the way you figure unemployment, that doesn't count the 15,000 to 18,000 people that aren't looking for work between the ages of 18 and 64. And somehow we have to influence, and some of those people are disabled, some are in college, some are early retirees, but some of those people could be in the workforce. So we need to do a better job of trying at that 7th, 8th, and 9th grade level, get them to understand the world of work, get them to understand the importance of showing up, passing a drug test, things that we know are kicking people out of the system. The last thing is, we just had early middle college graduation last week. We graduated 11 students. That's the biggest class so far, and we'll have about 35 people enrolled starting in a couple weeks. So that continues to be a growing area. This is the one that I referenced with Brad Flory. A lot of good numbers in here. And I talked to the realtors about this subject a couple weeks ago, and they said, well, this is really depressing. And I said, it's the facts. We just don't have enough people that are in the workforce right now, and not enough people that have the skills that we need in the workforce. And that's not just us. That's across the United States. Our challenge is no different than anybody else's. We have to take a better advantage of getting the programs that we have in place into schools so that those young people are starting to get an idea of what's going on. Yep.
Tim, I recently read an article that basically said that in the next 10 to 15 years, 40% of the existing jobs are going away. Robotics is going to replace them.
Many of those jobs, that's true.
So-
You're going to have somebody to build robots, though.
Yeah, well, if we can't find, I don't know, I'm concerned.
Well, and I think right now that
Jobs you're talking about.
we're going through a real transition. Not only do we have this shortage that we can see in front of us in the real numbers, we also have a huge number of people in that 45 to 55 category that are going to be going out of the workforce, and a lot of the skill sets that they have aren't getting transferred to the younger people. That's a huge issue. That's a big issue when we're doing these retention calls. And a lot of the lower skilled paying jobs are going to go to robotics. I mean, I read an article, may have been the same one, where the CEO of McDonald's said there's no way that a human worker can compete efficiency-wise with a robot inside a fast food restaurant. And maybe so, maybe not. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of those jobs that we can't fill that are lower skilled jobs are, if they're applicable to go to robotics, they are going to do that. But then you still need more people that could service robots. I mean, I know one of the local. Right, and one of the local restaurateurs has said one of the hardest things they have is finding service people that can keep the restaurants up and running, and just from the mechanical and HVAC standpoint, if you try to bring somebody on board rather than going through the contract process. So this is I think, I won't say never ending, but the horizon to solve this problem is pretty long. And the more we have local partners working together, which we really are blessed here in this community because we have our colleges and the ISD working hand in hand with the business community. And it's not that we always know what the solution's going to be. We're having a meeting at ISD in 2 weeks with Roger Curtis from the Talent and Investment Board, several of the CEOs, including Patty Poppy, about perhaps because we have such a good relationship in Jackson, how can we create some pilot projects here to see if something works and if we need to tweak it or do it different, rather than having the state tell us this is what works and you guys just implement it. Because we all know that's not necessarily the way to create programs that work best for business. So the last graph I should just give to you every time. Our 5-year goal was 1,500 jobs, and right now we're at 917, and that includes our procurement and technical group, our brownfields, and then all the expansion and new locations that we work on. So to give you a quick update, again, look for that press release. I think it should be within the next 10 days or so.
We can have a motion to receive. Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Next up, we have the prosecutor's semi-annual report. Jerry Jarzinka. Morning.
Yes.
It's gonna take me right back there, isn't it? Log into. I asked Dave. How do I get to, that's not what I want. Need to get into You know what? I didn't either.
It is online on the commissioner's look that we have anyway. The PowerPoint, Jerry, is that what you're looking
Okay.
for?
It is. I'll just go without that. I guess if it's online, you can
you see it?
you can see it.
I can see it on there. The other commissioners all have it too?
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. For our semi-annual report this morning, basically I just wanted to go through a number of things. One, some numbers of the warrants, petitions reviewed compared to 2015 and 2016. Last year, warrant requests reviewed just over 6,067. Compared to 2015, it was 4,845, and that would be both felonies and misdemeanor warrants that are submitted to our office by local police agencies. I can see that 4,604 warrants were authorized in 2016, compared to 4,198 in 2015. Denial of warrants is 1,435. Juvenile petitions reviewed, last year, 2016, we had 742, slightly down from 790 in 2015. So that's pretty high. Normally, we've been trending upward around 4,000, 4,500, but this actually exceeded what we've been seeing here recently. The past 4 years, we handled over 50 major felony cases in the office successfully. Just list a couple here. The murder for hire case that we tried last year. The 3 defendants, the Francis Craig homicide, which was very successful but took a lot of time and effort. The Sheriff's Department was the lead in that case and brought in the Major Crimes Task Force, which is an investigation that lasted, well, about a year. And then pretty intense preparation for that case to go to trial. So that was a very successful case. Troy Johnson's a case that we had a 3rd trial earlier this year. That was a homicide in the city. And a successful prosecution on that one, although we had a very difficult time getting cooperation from witnesses in the city in that case. But ultimately, we were successful. A couple other cases mentioned, Randy Stevens, James Tingley. That was a really sexual assault predator situation that we prosecuted, been going on for about 20 years. Don Dixon Bay, another homicide case, fiancé. Brian Elliott, homicide of his aunt, Maxine Friend. And then here, just in 2017, there's a number of cases that have been resolved already. Earlier this year, we had Michael Beatty pled to first-degree murder. This was a Matthew Crampton homicide, which is a cold case here. It happened in Jackson. Jamie Hyatt, the teacher involved with a minor, was sentenced to 3 to 20 years. Jesse Irving, this was a case that happened at the end of last year. He ended up pleading guilty as charged. It was a home invasion, carjacking, assault of a homeowner, a senior citizen. The senior citizen had used deadly force, shot Mr. Irving in the stomach. He took the gun, assaulted the homeowner, took his wallet and car keys and drove his car off. So he got 15 to 25 years, and I believe that he was also addicted to an opioid at the time. Sunju Graham, 20-year sentence. Aaron Norris, 25 to 50. That's a case where he was going after his wife, used a shotgun to shoot at her, but missed while she was driving by in a pickup truck. Continued on, Percy Taylor. That was a sexual assault case, home invasion. Got a minimum sentence of 140 years because of his violent offender status. It was stacked, and the minimum sentence is actually 140 years. Scotty Bodman, 25 to 50 years. That was a sexual assault case. Clifford Schoening, 25 to 50. Adam Stevens, 15 to 30 years. That was a case in which was sent back from the Court of Appeals in the Michigan Supreme Court. Ended up pleading guilty again to the charge of second-degree murder. Was sentenced to 15 to 30 years. Roland James, 35 to 60 years, a CSC case, and just recently Antoine Williams, 25 to 40 years, case involving, it was a robbery of actually the victim was a local drug dealer. But Antoine Williams, though, is a violent individual, has been on the radar screen for our City of Jackson Police Department for a number of shootings here locally. So he's going to prison for 25 to 40 years, so 25 years minimum at DLC. The trial docket's coming up this fall. Today in August, actually starting today, Monday, Terrell Stewart is a jury trial in circuit court starting. This is a shooting that happened at the Martin Luther King Center. And so that case's jury selection is believed to be slated to begin this morning as well. Derek Hurd, Michael Arrington, William Amison. In September, Tiffany Reichert, she's the other co-defendant in the Matthew Crampton homicide. I believe that she was aiding and abetting Michael Beatty in that case. So that's set for trial in September. In addition, James and Tina Harbert, a very bad child abuse case, which has taken some time to get to trial. The defense had filed an appeal, and it's going to set that back, a year and a half from the actual incident. October, Anthony and Julia, that's a homicide case, the Brittany Southwell homicide. Would note that Forrest Fleming on the October trial date is another delivery of heroin causing death case. November, we've got Scott Jurwitz, child death case, and Fate Pikes is also a delivery of heroin causing death case too that's set for trial. And last, Tracy Lawrence, case that was coming up for trial here in July. Our office appealed a ruling by the trial court judge about a piece of evidence, evidentiary ruling. We have went to the Court of Appeals. We're actually applying for leave to appeal to the Michigan Supreme Court on the issue. It's a critical issue there. So we believe that we'll get a trial date and decision from the Supreme Court whether they're going to hear that appeal or not here shortly. The office continues to be pretty involved with the community. You can check our website, but we've been doing monthly coffee meetings with citizens, or citizens have questions. They typically set appointments and they come in the office if they have any questions or issues of what's going on here locally with our legal system. In addition to that, this spring, I've been out talking to local township boards and village boards about the Michigan's Medical Marijuana Facilities Licensing Act. And I've done 10 of those presentations so far this spring. I've got one tonight in Sandstone Township as well. As you know, our legislature last year passed this Facilities Licensing Act, which was signed by the governor. It's going to be effective to apply for licenses December 15th of this year. So there's lots of nuts and bolts and pros and cons about that, but I've been going around the community to make the presentations, answer questions. And so that's another one tonight, number 11. It's been well received, and typically my state police lieutenant who works our local undercover unit, JNET, comes with me, and we make a presentation and answer any questions. So typically it's about 20 minutes presentation, about 40 minutes of questions. So it's been well received.
Jerry, is there any municipalities in the county that have or are going to adopt resolutions, do you know, or?
Based on what I found out, Concord, the village of Concord has adopted such an ordinance authorizing they're not called dispensaries anymore under the act, they're called provisioning centers. So they've authorized that, and I believe they intend to open one up on M60 right on their border with Concord Township. And I believe Leone Township also, I believe, has done that as well. Those are the two that I know of in the county. Yep, that's my understanding too, yes. Any other questions on that? Okay.
Can you send us the presentation just to look at? Just for our own information, or?
I can.
Because, I mean, last month I spent my whole night in Sandstone because they had another issue, so I don't plan on going to their meeting first, and I have 3 tonight.
Okay.
So, I mean, I would like to just kind of see it. I've gotten with Parma Township and, have gotten, their response to it, but I would just like to actually see the presentation
Okay.
if I could.
Yeah, no problem. I can do that. Okay. In addition to that, we've been meeting with the City of Jackson Police Department on a monthly basis since the spring to help work with them about trying to curb violence in the city. I think it's been successful this summer. I think we've seen a pretty significant reduction of shootings in the city this particular summer compared to last summer, so that's been highly effective. We're also, in addition to that, working on Drug Summit 4 for heroin and prescription drug abuse. That's set for December 8th. We've had 3 quarterly meetings already, just finished one up in July. And actually, public service announcements just started to run. We have a couple local doctors who agreed to record them, Dr. Rob Doan and Dr. Rami Corey, about the public using the 8 safe Dropbox locations for prescription drugs in our county. So that's underway as well. And the last page is basically just the number of different areas we cover, whether it's district, circuit, appeals, neglect and abuse court, child support, paternity, mental health petitions, juvenile court, forfeitures, victims' rights, and child support. So we've been pretty busy. This year, though, we've had some really good results to start with. And in addition to that, very pleased with the working with the city PD about violence in the city has been effective this summer. So, any questions?
Any questions of the prosecutor, commissioners? Sarah?
I haven't attended one of the human trafficking crime task force meetings that you've had. So how is that? Is it well attended? Do you have good interaction with the community? Like, who actually comes to that?
Well, we have pretty strong participation from Spring Arbor University, Professor Jeremy Norwood, who's been really active in that, and he attends those meetings. Typically, we have individuals involved with trafficking through the college. Deborah Muhich has been involved as well. And from our office, myself, my assistant prosecutor, Jake Dickerson, we've had also the city PD is involved, as well as the sheriff's attended meetings too. So that's been the gist of that. We actually are participating in a human trafficking task force, or a conference, Jackson College here, August 24th. Probably this is a situation where I think a lot of people in the community don't think that it really exists here in Jackson County, although we've come across stories of people who've had that experience, whether they're parents of a young daughter. So it does exist. We probably typically see it more in the public light as far as massage parlors with Asian women. But there's also, the issue about workers who may be working in local restaurants and really.
Yeah, hospitality services. Do you guys offer or have resources available for training for some of the workers that are in hospitality? Because, a couple of the issues that I've noticed were the hospital workers, obviously airlines are partaking in, training their airline stewards, I guess, to try to identify signs of human trafficking. Because a lot of times they obviously get into the mindset that they're not necessarily a slave now, but they have their, bodyguard or whatever traveling with them, and they travel on plane, buses, trains, everything, and then you see them in the hotels, you see them at the, movie theaters, you'll see them just kind of all over at concerts. So I didn't know if you had developed any partnerships to help train our hospitality workers, our hotel workers, anything like that in our county.
No, we haven't yet. No, it's a good point.
Okay, any other questions for the prosecutor? Thanks, Jerry.
All right, thank you.
Next up, we have the sheriff with his 2017 mid-year report. Sheriff Rand.
Don't do that.
Good morning, thank you. So we get started, should be fairly brief. Our average daily population is up around 374 right now. As you know, last year we stopped taking in MDOC boarders. That was their choice, not ours. Made some adjustments. Population went down for a bit, and then we're high population-wise again. Our intake this year is about probably 500 to 700 down from where it was in previous years, but I think the length, we've determined the length of stay is up, so our population has stayed kind of close to the same. Average daily, again, 374. There's a little highlight of some of the expenses we incur related to healthcare. We've got 130 doctor's visits, 667 nurse calls, and 19 ER visits, usually related to either some sort of an acute condition or oftentimes a fight within the facilities. From the capital improvement plan from 2016 and 2017, here are some of the things that are going on currently. HVAC out at Channer Road, that facility is now 14 years old, so we're seeing some maintenance things that need to be addressed, and working with Rick Shealy to get those things fixed. We've got a new refrigerator down at Wesley Street, new washers and dryers, industrial washers and dryers at Wesley Street, and we just added our camera system. That's up and running, and even added some additional high-res cameras out at that facility at Channer Road and then at the Wesley Street facility, capturing a lot more of what's going on. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay. Sheriff, are the cameras recording or are they just monitor?
They are. We have not only cameras in the facilities recording, but we also have cameras, body cameras, you're probably aware of that are on the jail staff, so that when they come to an incident, they can turn the camera on. I will say that I'm hopeful that that's going to reduce a lot of our liabilities. We've been to court, as you know, many times over incidents that have occurred in the jail, and it's a he said, she said, and we've got some really concrete evidence now. We're starting to see some of the allegations that we can absolutely dismiss because of the cameras being in place. So I'm hopeful that that'll reduce our liability. Video visitation, they're saying that system could be up and running as early as November 1st. We're going to have visit booths out at Channer Road facility, and then we're going to have some booths, it looks like, available in the Wesley Street lobby, down in the lower lobby. So that'll be available to people. There'll be less movement of inmates, and yes, sir.
Sheriff, was that beyond what was planned for downtown? It seems like we had discussion about that, the visitation boost downtown.
We were trying to accommodate it. We weren't quite sure how we were going to do it, and I don't want to steal Tammy's thunder, but I think with the community corrections program going away, that office will be free downstairs, and it'll probably be just the right size to put a couple booths in there and make it accessible for folks to visit.
So people could walk in, visit with somebody at Channer Road or downtown from there?
Correct,
Okay.
correct. Obviously, the parking is better at Channer Road and a lot more user-friendly in the lobby and that, so.
Thank you.
Yep. Let's see here. So far, dispatch incidents for the year, 14,500. Firearms purchase permits, we're up around 3,500. That's actually down from where it was this time last year. A lot of freedom of information requests coming in, 1,300 for the year. We were about just over 2,000 last year, so we'll certainly exceed that number. There's a little highlight of some of the things going on. OWI arrests, citations issued. Citations are down again, and we had this conversation at the last elected officials meeting. It's mostly a condition of not having as much unobligated time, where deputies, we're reducing staff is causing a lot of the citations and OWIs to be down, which I know is a frustration for district court, but that's just the condition we're in now, and that's the new normal. Highlight of what's going on with our major cases, we got 2 delivery of heroin causing death investigations going on. One yielded an Uzi submachine gun, 100 grams of crack cocaine. Obviously, this is the biggest focus we have countywide. We do have a new lieutenant in charge of JNET now, Derek White, who's phenomenal. He worked in JNET years ago and is really doing a great job with the team. Still committed to being involved with them because I think they're doing a lot of the higher level investigations and really making an impact. As small as the team is, it's something that's absolutely necessary, and we're very supportive of it. We also had a robbery B&B food store in Napoleon that we have suspects in, working with the prosecutor's office to follow up on those charges. There's a little highlight of JNET's activity. As you can see, methamphetamine still big, not our primary concern because of the deaths being caused by the heroin, but a couple of big busts that have occurred in the last few months had to push those numbers up to the 300 plus grams in each of those categories. Our mounted division, a lot of you saw them at the fair, and our reserve officers. We couldn't have done the fair nor searched for the missing Alzheimer's patient last week without them. Just really did a phenomenal job. I had a lot of help from the public, had a lot of help from our reserves. And again, mounted division doing double duty. They were at the fair, and then they were out in the Grass Lake area helping search for the man that was missing, and ultimately was found 2 days later. The dog from MSP Brighton came down and actually located the man, and fortunately he is okay, but he wouldn't have made it, I don't think, another night. Emergency management, a lot going on in emergency management. I'm sure some of you have seen emails come around, and I would encourage your participation. We had a senior officials workshop. I know Mr. Overton attended, very well attended out to Baker College. We appreciate their lending the facility to us. There's going to be more classes like that coming up. If you see those and you're interested, please attend. I think it's very valuable. I thought that was a very good conference and prepared us for some of the exercises that we've been doing the last couple months. Jason Brining, if I didn't mention it last time, who's in charge of emergency management right now, has achieved his professional emergency manager designation, which is required of the position, through the state of Michigan, and is really doing a phenomenal job. There's a few of the other things that are coming around. You'll see our emergency action guideline now is electronic, and that was largely due to he and his assistants in making that happen. Did Skyward training, continues to work with the weather spotters and so forth out in the field, and participated in a lot of exercises, including the statewide full-scale exercise in June of this year that, again, I know that there was some of the Mr. Overton and people from the road commission and, road department attended that as well. PFN, I think you folks already approved the PFN moving from AT&T to PFN for 911 service. This is going to enable us, once this is completed, to be up and ready for texting 911, that type of thing, all the next generation stuff that is coming down and preparing. I'm not sure that will come to fruition anytime soon, but at least we'll be prepared and hopefully have redundancies built into the system to have failovers to other area 911 centers like Lenawee or Hillsdale, so that we can assist them and they can assist us in the future. And the Motorola system, the MPSCS 800 megahertz radio system project is moving forward. There's been a handful of bumps in the road, some peculiarities that I won't go in depth on, but it's been an interesting process. The undersheriff is leading that project and doing a phenomenal job. There's a lot of little things that you don't think about. You think of paying, which we did pay a lot of money to Motorola to complete the project, but there's a lot of little steps and things that we need to do in the background, and Under Sheriff Cool is taking care of all those matters. and working with the local agencies to ensure that we've got all the radio templates and all the proper equipment distributed, and when this project is finally completed, I think it's going to be a great thing for Jackson County.
Sheriff, just a comment for me for you're allowing the undersheriff to take that and run with it. It's kind of a thankless task, I'm sure, but he's doing a great job with it.
It is, and he's so technically savvy that it's a perfect fit for him. I'm sure he wants to kill me, but yeah, it is a good fit, and I'm glad that it's moving along. Any other questions for me? Thank you.
District Court, Tammy Bates. Morning, Tammy.
Good morning. Hopefully reports are online. Yes? All right. Nothing new and exciting in the report section. Everything is pretty much flowing as expected. As the sheriff indicated, we are down in traffic tickets, citations, so that makes our overall caseload down. Currently about 1,514. That was through the month of June, with 1,407 of those out of traffic. So it does affect us in a big way. Other than that, everything else is pretty much status quo. Our collections department is down a little bit, and I can attribute that to we had some computer issues, website issues last month. We were down, our online payments were down for probably 3 weeks, and I think that had a big impact on our collections for that month as we were down, and right now we're about 12,000 down from where we were at this time last year, but we're anticipating that will come up and we'll pick back up.
Tammy, was it 3 weeks straight or was it sporadic or?
I'm going to tell you, I think it was about 3 weeks straight.
Shut off.
Other than that, I have nothing else as far as reports are concerned. I'll take questions on those.
Again, the reports are all online. There's a link to them there. Commissioners, any question for Tammy? Sarah?
I just have a question regarding this community service program. What are we looking for in the future, looking towards, I guess, in the future, since that's basically ending October 1st? Is there anything right now at this point you can share with us and maybe update us on ways we can keep it, or what the intention of the courts is?
Yep, you beat me to the punch. That was the next topic. The Office of Community Corrections, as I said, I think when I was here at the beginning of the year, has discontinued or cut all of our community service money through the Community Corrections Grant. With that being said, that was the only and is the only benefit that district court has from the Community Corrections Program. So beginning in October 1, district court has decided to no longer manage the Community Corrections Grant. We are planning to put together a meeting of the CCAB board here in the next week so that we can notify them of that. Mainly because, as I said, community service is going away. That was the one benefit that we had from this program. Keeping that in mind, what I'm planning to do is put together an alternative sentencing program through our probation department. With that, what we will do is have one of our probation agents that currently is doing our intensive supervision. He will do intensive supervision, community service, work crew, and we're talking about some other options like work pass and things of that nature. And but I'm going to try to talk to the sheriff with that. Work pass might be a little shaky based on some of the liability with that, but we're looking at work crew, community service, tether programs, and intensive supervision.
So Tammy, the community corrections, if it's reestablished, it's going to come with funding, you hope through the county anyway, is what you're looking at, correct?
Well, the court applied for 2018 grant, which would begin October 1 of 2017 and run through September 30 of 2018. We applied for the grant. I've been told verbally that the grant was approved. We just have not received written notification of that. We have, Judge Claren and I met with Judge Wilson and Charles Adkins last week and basically informed them of what's happening, what we're going to do, and basically said, if you want to take this program over, here it is. And we've not heard back from them yet. So we're hoping through the CCAB board that we can get some resolution on who's going to operate it.
And it would be at the funding level previously that we had from the state, or no?
Well, it would be, the grant would be what was approved for 2017, 2018, and then they would just run it from there.
Okay.
Whoever takes that over.
Okay,
I have one more.
go ahead, sir.
So it's my understanding with that grant disallows you to use any of that money for community service. Is that?
That is correct.
That's basically why you're saying we're done with it, because it really isn't that useful to us.
That, it's not useful to district court.
District court, yeah.
Correct. It's very useful to the circuit court.
If they, yeah, okay.
For
Well,
Department of Corrections people.
Yeah, and just one additional comment or two from me is that at CCAB, we had discussions about how useful that program is. Animal shelter is one place and the fairgrounds is another. I think through the years, it had spread out to other activities too, but those are two primary focuses that the county certainly benefits from. And one of the new appointees to the board is the press person. It's John Hummer, who reports for the Exponent. And he did a fairly long article on that meeting. If you haven't read it, I'll forward the article that I'll circulate to the commissioners as well.
I did see the article. It's a very nice, good article. Yes, I was very happy with that.
Very good.
But just so that you're aware, and I guess your minds are at ease, we're planning to still do that with the fair and the animal shelter. That'll be part of our work crew. So the work crew will take care of cleaning up, trash around, taking care of the fair, taking care of the animal shelter. And then your community service folks, we will put out to nonprofits.
Any other questions of Tammy? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, J.C. Dot with several issues, or requests, I guess, not issues. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Commissioners. All right. First up is underbody blades. Fairly routine submittal for you to approve. We use these steel blades for snow plowing and grading, and basically vendors only hold their prices for about a 60-day period once they give us a bid or a quote. So it's our practice to stock what we can, given the most favorable pricing, and we're very happy with the bids this year, and so we're seeking approval at this time so we can be well equipped through the winter months and into next year.
Chris, a couple of questions for me on it, as maybe I'm reading it wrong, but you're recommending St. Regis, it looks like, correct?
Yes.
And on several of these, St. Regis is not the low bidder, and I see a note at the bottom of your page that is highlighted. It says discrepancy in price, which price is correct, and it says should be the same for both counties. So if I'm reading it accurately, why are we going with what's not the low bid? Unless I've got it wrong. I'm not sure if the other commissioners have looked at it, but.
I do know there was a question on quality, the sourcing of the steel blade materials and so forth. Bruce, when you researched this, did you look into this issue? Yeah, if you could.
I asked that question as I was writing up the staff report. I was informed by our purchasing people from both counties that while the bids for from the other vendors were lower, the quality of their blades is so much lower that we spend more on quantity. We also spend a lot more on time and effort in changing out blades more often. So in the end, the bottom line is going to be fairly comparable, but it looks lower on paper.
So to
Well,
Dave's
I
point
didn't-
here-
I guess I didn't, I would have appreciated seeing something to that effect in here, number one, but number two, what's really the point in doing a bidding process? I mean, you'd think in the spec process, we'd be able to weed that out, but that's kind of hard to get your arms around. It's just kind of a generic, I guess, thought. Maybe that's the experience of our mechanics, but it's kind of hard to justify when you see the numbers we see here. I'm not sure what the other commissioners think of it, but there's substantial price differences.
We do write fairly tight specs, but we get what we get. We ask them to specify their sourcing and so forth, and then we vet that out.
Mike, did you have a comment?
Well, I did. I was going to suggest the same thing that you already suggested, was that in the bid specs, we should identify whatever particular quality issue we're looking at here. I assume there's some way they're discerning one blade from another, be it the steel. I'm not sure how you do that exactly, but regardless, I'm sure there's some means of doing it. And it would have been nice to see it reflected here, because that would have saved this whole conversation.
What we do, if you turn, not to refer you and get into the weeds too much, but on page 17 of the RFP, blade material and sizes, hardness, all sizes, et cetera, we specify the content of carbon, manganese, phosphorus, all that, and then we vet this out and review. And we also go based on past experience with the similar materials from the other vendors.
So do we state that in the staff report?
I don't know that we,
Because it's 2.5 pages, and to be frank, and this is not necessarily the place, but the board should be able to look at the staff report and discern why it is we're doing what we're doing, not the 17-page document.
Or want to do what they
Sure.
want to do?
Well, exactly, you see what I'm saying.
I can point you to, under background, current situation, sorry, item D, that we do try to summarize that issue. That both agencies have discovered the quality of their blades is much lower than those provided by St. Regis in the past, 33% more blades. So we did try to summarize that issue.
But Chris, how, I mean, if we're specking the same steel in all the same specs, how do you account for that? And I guess what's the point of even bidding it then and specking it if all other things are equal, but we're awarding it to a higher bidder?
Yeah.
That's bothersome to me, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with you. I will go back to our purchasing committee and ask those questions, and I'll update the staff report prior to the board meeting. I'll get something out to you by email as well. Would that be satisfactory? With specifics on
Yeah,
this
it's
issue?
just bothersome again that we're being told they don't last as long.
Yeah, I'll find out why and what they're,
When they're all spec'd and you're talking about,
Yeah.
using carbon steel and other things, it's a little bothersome to me, but
Yeah.
that's just me.
I know they do a lot of work on this, and I have a high level of trust in the Joint Purchasing Committee's work, but I will get details on this. It's a good question, so I'll
And
get some
then,
answers.
On page 1 of the bids, winter equipment is highlighted. How did we end up, and there's a footnote to that, with winter equipment giving one bid for Calhoun County and a different bid for Jackson County for the same plow? If you, of course, you probably can't see it there.
For the
but
9-footer, the 9 feet?
Yeah, the
One plow?
9-footer, There are
That's what they-
109 in Calhoun County and 94 in Jackson County.
You'll notice we highlighted those, and we were
Right.
asking the same question. So I'll find out the specifics, but that is what the bidder turned in, oddly. Maybe it was a quantity, 40 each versus 140 each. It looks like they charged more in Calhoun.
Wouldn't it be the other way normally?
Well, normally, bidders do what bidders do, and we don't always know their rationale, to be honest, but I'll find out. We can call and ask them.
Okay, so,
Well, I know that we had an interesting winter, but could you get us the number of blades that you've bought, like, for the last 3 years? Each winter?
We can get that to you, yeah. You don't know offhand, do you, Bruce? No. Yes, I'll find out. I thought it was in our staff report, but I can find out. No, it's not there.
okay,
I'll get you those details.
so if there are no other questions, we'd be looking for a motion to send this on to the full board.
Support.
Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same. Aye. Motion carried. Chris, JC Excavator.
Thank you. What you have in front of you is a proposal, a request for approval to purchase a gently used Model 305E small excavator, mini excavator, with compactor equipment attachment. This is for small, hard-to-reach areas. It is something that we had in our initial draft of a CIP from a couple of years ago, but we took it out. And the main reason we took it out was pricing on new units was fairly high, and we put it on the B list. We weren't sure what townships were going to do with their local road work, and now we do know, after the recent elections here, that we have a tremendous amount of local road work to do. The reason this is important is because a mini excavator is critical to doing driveway culverts, a lot of the driveway fitting when we mill. In Crush and Shaper Road, we have to refit many of the driveways, and our crews do the bulk of that work. So this equipment will be charged out to those projects, and the cost will be recouped. So this has been vetted. We have market comparables, and we're very pleased with the performance of this machine. We've rented it for a couple of months and found it to be very, very useful. And we're using excess funds from the bonds. We have about $512,000 below budget based on savings from prior purchases at this point. So we're just looking to use a small piece of that excess funds at this point in time.
Chris, out of curiosity, is it rubber tracked?
I believe it is. Yes, I believe it is, to protect the pavement.
Okay, we'd be looking for approval at committee. Oh, I'm sorry, John.
15 to 20 years. It's very well cared for. The maintenance records are impeccable, and our crews know the owner and has a great reputation for caring for the equipment. We see that clearly with the quality of the machine. And we found some other units, of course, in vetting out the pricing. We found one with twice the hours and not nearly as well cared for about $3,000 less. So this one has more value to us.
Chris, I'll comment. I went out surfing last night and found some too, but they were all higher hours and/or a lot more money, so.
Thank you.
So again, it's approved at the committee level, so we'd be looking for a motion, $44,000 from B&B Services.
Support.
Motion and support. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Chris?
Thank you. And just a closing comment, and I know you know this, but with a lot of the machinery we're buying, we're seeing a lot of efficiency improvements in the time that it takes our crews to do various tasks. So this is one example, even just renting the machine, where we really saw enhanced performance and effectiveness of our crews. Michigan Avenue paving contract, you'll see two contracts today. The next item is also one. The map you have for this one is actually for item J, so I apologize for that. We're trying very hard to get maps with these so that you can see the location. We will get you the map before the board meeting. We'll get the proper map loaded. This is fully funded by a combination of federal grant and state grant, two different grant sources. We are only required to contribute if the project has change orders or exceeds the grant amounts. And we also always on these grants, just to bear in mind that engineering inspection costs are not eligible. So we always have to provide those as in kind with our engineering team. We're seeking approval. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Chris, one for me. Was this actually bid? I mean, I see it's designated as Michigan Paving, but I don't recall. Maybe we approved it earlier. I don't know. Was it not bid, or does it not need to be bid, or?
I don't believe this is bid. This is proposed work for next year, if I understand correctly. Bruce, is that correct?
So we would not bid it if it's for next year?
It is going to be bid, yes, through MDOT's channels. It's not locally bid. So MDOT would actually take the bids and award the contract.
Is that because it's grant funded?
It's grant funded, right. So these are pass-through funds. We actually never see the money. MDOT handles it all. They bid it out. We have to submit all the proper paperwork months in advance. So this is for next year, I believe.
Well, but the last PDF there is the Michigan Ave Paving, not that one, but I think there's a contract here with Michigan Paving, is there not? I thought I had seen that somewhere on the document here. Maybe not.
to the contract
It
itself.
must be just the Michigan Ave paving I'm looking at.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can carefully review.
We'd be looking for a motion to send this on to the full board.
So moved.
Motion and support, questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried.
It's even a
Chris?
bit confusing for us because we have so much work going on Michigan Avenue.
good
So
thing.
I'll verify that this phase is for next year because we have another phase for next year also. And then we have a bridge on Michigan Avenue also. And if there's a correction, I'll issue that by email. Item J is some chip seal work, pavement preservation, and same thing, 100% funded, plus the engineering costs on us. I believe this work is slated to begin this year. The bids have been received on this, and we're looking to proceed.
Okay, and that's in the amount of $694,600.
Correct.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions or comments? If not, we'd be looking for a motion.
Move to approve the motion as requested.
Motion and support to send it on to the full board. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Chris, Spring Arbor Agreement.
Thank you. This is something we've been working hard at over the last couple of months, and we're now ready with a draft. There's only one last step to have the township attorney review this. And Act 111 of 1956 requires that we have these kinds of agreements, just to be clear, and their ballot language requires it as well before they can actually sell the bonds. So we had a pretty lengthy conference call with attorneys on Friday and worked out a couple of details. The biggest change you see since study session is twofold. One is clarification on the statute reference, which is Act 111, as we describe here, and then payment procedures were clarified. So the township will issue its own bonds and hold its own bond money, and then we will basically ask for the money to be dispersed back to us as we spend it over the next 3 years.
Chris, my comment is that it's a huge project. I'm glad to see it happening. But as I looked through the agreement last night, I happened to think of the SRI and all the parties that were involved in that. And I'm hopeful and looking for reassurance that this has been properly vetted enough that we're not making any of the same missteps that were made in that whole process. Because I just don't want us to make that same mistake again. And I'm kind of looking at you too. So it's been reviewed by council and everybody's
council.
confident that there are outs built in here that will hold up if something happens.
Yes, we've had two attorneys, Matt, and also one of his associates, Richard, I believe, was involved also, who was a specialist in these kinds of contracts. And they had no concerns after our call on Friday with these changes. So I guess all precautions are being taken. This is kind of unprecedented to do this amount of work in one fell swoop. It's not commonly done, but these agreements are common, even for just one project or a series of projects. So our attorneys didn't have concerns. It seemed usual and customary, but careful review has occurred.
And this gets your ringing endorsement, Mike, knowing that we're recorded.
It does.
Okay. Commissioners, any comments or questions from the rest of you? If not, we'd be looking for a motion to send it to the full board. Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried.
Thank
Chris,
you.
monthly report.
Just to clarify in this last item, that any changes the township attorney requests, we will once again vet with our counsel, and so that final version will be included in your documents for the board meeting. Our monthly update you have before you, many pages, some colorful photographs. We're proud to showcase some of the work. Okay, so the letting is happening. Okay. Most of the report is self-explanatory. I just want to highlight a couple of best practices that real proud, I guess, of the changes we've made in a lot of our operation and the way we handle construction and the timing. I want to just verbally give you an update on the fiasco we had with one of our road projects this last week where a vendor sent the wrong oil. And it isn't known to us until we begin spraying. That's usually vetted carefully, and the vendor is very, very careful for liability reasons to make sure the right material is being delivered. But we basically had the mistake of an oil being applied. It should have been Fog Seal, the top coat, and it turned out to be the HFRS2, which is the adhesive, the super glue oil for the chips. So we acted quickly and mitigated by putting sand down, but the road at this point is not pretty. And we have a meeting scheduled tomorrow with the vendor, with higher-ups. They're standing behind a promise, a guarantee to fix the issue. So that could include a new chip seal, it could include a microsurface, but it will be remedied, and we'll be doing that quickly, just so you're aware of that.
Chris, was it the full load that was put down or not?
I'm not sure if they got the entire tanker load down, but they certainly loaded our truck, and we got going, spraying what we thought was Fog Seal, and got going down the road at a pretty good clip. So I can find out if the actual tanker was emptied.
So at this point, the road's drivable without damage to any cars, just a matter of how to fix it.
It was those critical couple, 3 hours when things are sticky and messy, so our flaggers stayed out late. We're going to get recouped for all that extra time and energy and the sanding that we did and so forth. Yeah, we tracked all those costs. The vendors want to sell us product, and so when these things happen, we put them on notice right away, and I expect full cooperation. So I can give you an update on that in the near future. Real proud to showcase our new plow out front. We worked closely with the Jackson Area Career Center. You'll see a zoom in on their signatures from the students that worked on this earlier this year. We've also installed lighting for it as well as for our flagpole at the same time, so facilities was very helpful. We want to thank them for their work there. This is something that's been in the works for quite a while to upgrade our image. You might recall the old painted plow we had out front. It was this plow, but it had the Road Commission logo on it. And it's something that it was on my list of high priority things to take care of. So now you see a blended logo with both Jackson counties. I don't have a zoom in on the actual logo, but they hand painted that. They made sure we had both reflected there. Incidentally, you'll see some of our plow trucks and equipment running around with Road Commission diamonds on them. Those will be gone very shortly. Something we've been working on as an applique to go over them after we realized what equipment we were replacing. So scraping them off can be problematic, but we have a new logo with Department of Transportation that will be covering those. Just want to let you know about that. Any questions on the update?
Commissioners, any questions of Chris? Hearing none.
Thank you very much.
Move to pay the claims.
Support.